Today we're excited to welcome Tanmay. Tanmay is a young innovator, founder of CareForBrains, a professional chess player, and accomplished student with achievements including a chemistry Olympiad participant, and has gotten certificates from Harvard University and the University of Hong Kong, and has also gotten extension of lifetime volunteer work. Thank you for being here today, Tanmay. Do you have anything to add on?
Sure, yeah. To add on to Ashvita, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you are.
Perfect. Okay. So to add on that, I'm also a co-founder of a kind of like a medical startup, you could say, called Vertiband. It's it's a therapy device for people suffering from benign proximal position vertigo. Other than that, you covered everything.
That's great. Thank you for being here today again. To going on, can you tell us more about vertebrae and how it's helped and how unique it is and how did you come up with that idea?
Sure. So Vertiband is essentially just so there's a disease called benign proximal position vertigo, where small crystals in your ear kind of get dislodged. And what because of that dislodgement, you kind of experience vertigo, that they feel dizzy, they feel you can't walk properly because those crystals kind of control your balance. So that idea originally stemmed from my mom. My mom has that issue as well, and it honestly kind of planted its seed in my head when I was in eighth grade ish. You could say it was never meant to be like, oh, I'm gonna make this entire product, I send this to competitions, do a patent. But it was more like this what it helps you do so to kind of help monoproximal vision vertigo, doctors will send you to a physical therapist, and the physical therapist will move your head in like specific ways, like left, right. It's called the epilay maneuver. And those appointments are, first of all, not cheap. You have to travel, and people with experiencing vertigo, they can't really drive. A family member has to drive them, and then there's also that medical availability that not everybody has the like to afford therapy or can go to therapy or have a family member to help them. So Vertiband essentially is a tool, is a guide that kind of helps you um, do the therapy at your own pace at home. That it's strapped, it's kind of strapped, it's like a VR headset, you could say, strapped to your head, and it'll kind of tell you move to the right, move to the left. It'll give you audio feedback, live feedback. There's an app, you can control it within everything. So it's a more of a do it DIY, do it yourself at your house. Of course, I'm not this is not some FDA approved, but it's a step towards therapy at home. And we also have a patent filed with my co-founder Xavier. And we're just kind of building onto it, making it even better for the future of Vertigo.
I heard that your partner was from a different school. How did you go on
Yes.
and find that partner and make that partnership?
Sure. So that partner was I actually went to middle school with him, Xavier. I was in his seventh grade English class. I used to partner up with him because he was really good at English, and I used to get good grades on my projects because of him. But that's besides the point. And I met him in seventh grade, middle school, eighth grade. We were still friends. In ninth grade, we went to the same school. He went to Clemens High School. I went to Clemens High School along. I had some health issues in the intermediate, so I had to leave Clemens High School and kind of join like an online high school. So it wasn't like I found this guy randomly from it was more of like I knew the person, I knew what his technical capabilities were. When this idea came to my head, it was more of the barrier to me was that I didn't know anything about electronics. Like I don't know how to wire stuff. In my mind, I'm just gonna blow something up. And so I knew that Xavier knew to make sure not to blow things up. So that kind of I kind of asked him like how can I wire stuff. He got more involved. He learned. He liked the project, and to even enrich our own understanding about vertigo, we did a meta-analysis together. We kind of wrote a research paper together, and we got that published in a journal. And next, in 2 weeks from today, 10 days ish, we're going to a conference to actually present that paper into one of the biggest American audiology conferences. And all that was unexpected because this was all like the meta-analysis. I never meant it to be like a whole paper conference published. It was more meant to be like just both of us learn more about it before we can talk about this in a fluent manner. So yeah, to answer your question, I knew him previously, and from that it's stemmed.
That's amazing. Good luck on publishing it. And
Thank
yeah, how I know going over that idea must have cost a lot. And how did you finance? I know you did your research paper to get knowledge about it, but how did you go to the aspect of, oh, the cost, or how do I get the cost but also solve the problem in a simple, cost effective way? Because I remember you were talking about how you wanted to be cost effective side as well.
Yeah, so for Vertiband, you could say that look, in terms of right now at this stage, it's factory parts, right? Parts that were already pre-made. We kind of assembled them together, did some coding, called it a product, and that is how essentially every product starts. In the future, right now, it costs, you could say, with assembly and building and everything, probably a little bit more of $100, 150 ish. For profit margins, you could say 290. But that product itself is extremely cheap when you look at the therapy costs. Like, okay, without insurance, my mom, if we didn't have insurance, my mom would pay $200 per session, and that is, when I say session, that's every day. So $200, $200, $200. So it, that one-time device you pay will cover the entire thing. I'm sure you're still gonna have to go to a medical professional, but what it was meant to be was supposed to be like a DIY. Do it yourself, because vertigo isn't something that it's spontaneous, it's random. That even now, my mom's fine, she's perfect, but randomly just spikes. And at that time, you can't go and call the physical therapist. Hey, I need you right now. So that availability issue, affordability, yet again, I'm lucky insurance, but this therapy stuff is no cheap. Even with insurance, you have to pay a good amount. So in the future, that especially now, me and Zebra have been teaching ourselves how to like make our own circuit boards, like and from that, we can make extremely cost effective product, because now it's in our hand. We don't have to go and fight for another product outside and assemble that. It will be more, we design it, we get it printed extremely cheap, pennies, and that will just bring the cost. To be honest, it can be down to at least $10 a product, which is extremely cheap for a tech product, you could say. So that's the goal for affordability. To bring it down as much as we can with our expertise.
I like how you're so passionate about this idea and have focused it on your mother. Going on to this, you have started Care for Brains, also, which is using volunteering. How did you start that?
So how that originated was that I had surgery. So I have something called perineal Crohn's disease, and I had some surgery. That's why I had to switch, and I had to, in ninth and 10th grade, I had to go get surgery. I was under the scalpel, and then I was home. I had to be bedridden for 2 to 3 months. Between those 2 to 3 months, I was like really down. Like I was cut off of the world. I couldn't leave the house. I was limited to my phone and my computer, whatever. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't walk a lot, and that kind of brought me to the point of that. Kids our age don't understand what mental health is. It's more of, oh, mental health, depression, anxiety, blah blah blah. It's more, they don't understand what it is truly and how it affects everybody. Everybody has some issues. Everybody has their own issues, but my goal was to gap that knowledge barrier, to make sure that you have to understand that everybody has their issues and how that affects people truly, because I feel like a lot of people tend to focus on, just kind of skip that. Like, don't care about that. I have the high GPA. I don't care about my parents. Don't care about my mental health. My friends and family don't care about mental health. They're more of, oh, you have a high GPA, you'll be fine. And it's like, kind of skip over that. Just skip over the mental health, and that was what Care for Brains originated with. It was kind of to gap that bridge, to make sure that it is talked about, it is known about in our generation, because it's the future, right? You cannot succeed if you don't know yourself and you don't know how to cope up with issues, right? So that's where that kind of originated from, Gabber Brains.
I like how you said it that way because, like, in old generations, they focus on, oh, this is your academic achievement. And as we see, like, in these generations, most of them, we stem more into our mental health or in our better capacity of how we are, instead of just
Mhm.
saying, oh, this is the goals, but also focusing on how do we feel, how are we in a person, or like how are others, and also taking that into consideration.
Mhm.
So how have you implemented that into Care for Brains?
So for CareForBrains, the first thing is, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. All teenagers have one thing in common: TikTok, Instagram. We all doom scroll eventually, and what CareForBrains does is essentially, I know that I'm a teenager. I know I doom scroll. 15 hours screen time isn't easy. And so what me and my team have done is we kind of have pushed mental health on social media pages, where we kind of get volunteers to say, hey, uh, make like a flyer, post it on social media. If you cannot, with their permission, we can post it. So that kind of, when you start seeing stuff, yeah, everybody, most teenagers doom scroll every single day. So because of that, you start seeing mental health flyers, you start understanding you, and because of that, the volunteers themselves understand and learn. And from that, people on social media who look at those flyers, who look at those posters, who look at those acknowledgments, also learn as well. So it's just learning.
With coming with that experience and being able to make a difference, what were some problems you faced while getting volunteers or putting it on media?
So it was very the hardest part was being consistent with social media. It was really hard to, you know, go on social media, post it, because I would forget, the other people forget, and it just happens, and that was the hard part. But then we kind of, the idea of discipline, the idea of, we're doing this for a bigger cause. You keep doing it, and that kind of gets streamlined, and from that it attracts people, volunteers per se. Talk to our friends about it. The volunteer program does offer volunteer hours. So, because we are 501c, so it essentially kind of lures people in. You understand, you get the volunteer hours, but you also learn important skills, and you understand that what's going on inside the head of a person. Well, I'm not claiming that you'll become a psychologist, but I'm saying that you will understand a person a little bit more better, because like you said, like academia, that every there's a very fine line between your accomplishments and who you are, and people tend to blur that together. They kind of combine that together, but it's separation of tasks. I'm me, but I've also done this. But you have to understand what's going on with me, and I understand what's going on with myself. So that, I feel like a lot of people, it might sound a little Disney movie like, but when you truly look at it, it's the greatest thing, because you understand. Because once you understand yourself and you try to understand others, then at that point is when you, a community, right? You bridge, you make a community of everybody who is, let's say, empathetic of each other. So that was, I guess, a tick.
I like how you said community in a sense. I feel like people forget that you can't just do it alone, but you need people as well and have like a
Exactly.
passion in that sense. So I like how you mentioned that. Going forward, I know how you said you were secluded for a time because you went to online school. How was that experience and how did you get through that and what did you do during that time period?
So, that's a big question. uh for online school, the hard part was that, so I still had a lot of friends from school, and I would talk to them. But eventually, what you learn is that if you don't see a person every day, they'll fade from your life. That's just a fact, and that I learned that, and it really taught me to be grateful of the people you have near you. So I still have two, three people, the closest, and I still talk to them, play with them, uh, hang out. But so honestly, it was at first I was really irritated and alone. I was tired all the time too. It was like I had nothing to do, because back in ninth grade, in eighth grade, or seventh grade, you're all like, oh, I just need to focus on my biology test. Who cares? So then it was like, because I feel like this is probably one of the best things that happened to me having this disease, is because it gave me time to understand myself, and it gave me time, because what I understood is that, first, I like to do things that I can't, focus on one like academia, right? I like to do multiple things. I want to do research. I want to do vertiban. I want to do CareForBrains. I like going out and doing it myself. So from that time period, it was more of trying to learn skills, that how do I code, or how do I do simple coding. I might not be the next coming of Mark Zuckerberg, but I can learn how I can kind of guide how AI these days can code anything basically for us. So that kind of gave me a more oversight on how to code and learning skills. Started volunteering out of Care for Brains. I started volunteering at a hospital because I just wanted to go out in a hospital. I've been at a hospital as a patient for so many hours. I wanted to go there as like a staff member, you could say. It's more of a volunteer, but because then I see a life as a patient and I see life as like a staff, and I can then that's the entire picture of medicine and mental health and everything. You could see what really drives the issues in our healthcare system and society itself. And to answer your question, in between that time, first I played a lot of video games. I got bored of it really quickly in like a week. Then I would just teach my skills, put myself out, go volunteer at a hospital, talk to people. It was a journey. Even in my school, there's a lot of kids like my school is a little hard, communicate with other kids because the way it works is that it's little 30-minute classes, and that's about it. But to make sure I could kind of overcome that and outreach to my school, I joined a lot of clubs like HOSA, NHS. HOSA is like my main thing. I love that club. But it was just like in most of our lives, our parents kind of set us in a community. You go to the school, I put you in the school, you go here, blah blah blah. But this is the first time I feel like in my life that I had to go out and find myself a community. I had to build my own, and that is what kept me going. To learn, to meet, and just to do stuff and shoot free throws.
I say like most people we don't know like what moment in our life is going to be like a moment which will change us. I like how you said it because when we put in a challenge, we most people think like this is a roadblock, we're not going to get past it. But I like how you said that moment's like something that changed you to be on your own, not like what your parents have put for you, but you want to make your own community, your own people. And I like how you
Mhm.
said you had your hobbies, you got tired of them, but that showed you a new thing to do and a new
Exactly.
thing to come over. One of your other hobbies I heard of is chess. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So chess. It was like it's just like murder man. It was never meant to me be playing competitive. It was more that at the when I was I think 6 or 7 when I was 7 years old in Austin. I used to go to elementary school called Elsa England, and there they would have like a chess club. And I don't know if you remember Ashwita. I don't know if they have this at your when you were in middle school, but have you elementary school? Do you know what blue bonnet books were?
Yeah, I know it there.
Yeah, so there was this competition, Blue Bonnet books, and I would just you had to read books, and then if you read like X amount of books, then you would eat donuts in the library with the librarian. So that was my entire like elementary life goal to go and eat donuts with the librarian. So I would do the Blue Bonnet books, and you had to do a quiz. And with that quiz, when I went to the quizzes, they're all in the mornings. I used to go to do the quizzes for the books. There used to be this group of kids and like adults playing chess. I never, I just like walked in. I was doing my bubonic quiz, and I just like walked to the table, and I was like, "What is this?" I knew what it was, but I didn't know what it was really. And I sat down, started learning. And then I got obsessed with it. Like I would honestly, there was a time in my chess, like when I was 8 or 9 years old, that I would my iPad, I would skip school to play chess on chess.com. Like I would like beg my parents, please let me stay, and they're like, okay, fine. But then my dad started coaching, and, get this kid better. Then tournaments, then I started competing. I loved it. I kept playing, I kept playing, and then COVID happened. And after COVID, um, everything just went down a hill for chess because there was no competitions, no in-person competitions, online competitions. I just hated it. I hated the idea of competing on an iPad for a tournament at least. And at that point, it was just like, I hate this game. Get me out of here. And then I met Fortnite. So Fortnite happened, and then I still play tournaments sometimes, but now it's more recreational fun. It's not I'm not going the mindset of I gotta beat everybody I see in front of me. It's more of I want to learn, I want to enjoy, and it's even my younger brother. I'm trying to put him in this thing. He's 5 years old. He's a Roblox addict, but trying to convert him into a chess addict, and hopefully because chess is one of these games where you learn uh, from a young age. It's basically math. it's that my math your math skill and your chess skill will go higher as you go better, because in chess you have to use, at a certain point you have to use predictive analysis, that you have to out predict the person in front of you. And that's kind of what math is. You have to predict well, the answers from a specific guide, you could say, and that's what kind of chess is. So I still love the game. I play it, recreationally now. Compete When I compete, it's more of going for fun locally. But back then I used to live in Austin. I would travel to like Galveston to compete, which is like a 6 hour drive. And my dad was like, "You want to play? I'll take you." And that was also a great thing my dad did, that he never said no to me. That I would be like, "Papa, can I take me here? Take me here. Let's compete. Let's compete." He would never say no, and he would never be like, "Don't get a coach." He was like, "You want a coach? I'll get you a coach." And then my coach Jim, I remember him, great dude. He's the one who really propelled me even forward, because at that age you don't understand your mistakes. You only understand, oh, I want to win, I want to win, I want that trophy, I want that trophy. You don't understand the mistakes you're making in the game. And that guy really, that the guy really shifted the way I thought about everything. That when I, like, let's say I do a math test and I do bad at math or science. I feel like before this chess I would have been like, I didn't make any mistakes, I just forgot, blah blah blah. But after this, after the chess, after I learned and I understood that it's my fault at some point, that of course there's co-founding variables, but chess also instilled the idea of, because chess is one of these games, there's just no luck. There's no luck. There's just no luck. So you understand, at a point you understand that it's your fault if you do bad, if you don't like your result. And that is the perspective of change, you could say, that chess brought me. And that's why I still play it, because even now it's like a different approach on how I even study, like AP chemistry, you could say. I feel like if I didn't play chess, if I ever made a mistake in a test, I would be like, not my fault, I forgot. But now I would be like, okay, where did I go wrong? Show me where I went wrong. And, that linear thought pattern is what drove me. So even this research I do on my own, even like Vertiban, it was like, if I like the first Vertiban I had, me and my partner made, our parts wouldn't even fit in the 3D box. Like it literally just fell out, exploded out. And it was like, I feel like if without the chest, if I didn't have that chest, I would have been like, I give up. But because of the chest, I had that, where did we go wrong? Let's rectify this. Let's make another 3D box. I think we made like 6 iterations until we made one final one. But that's what chess was for me.
I like how you said chess is more, because most people think just chess is just a game. You don't learn about it. Maybe that math aspect, people think about that, but they don't think it as a use as like a problem solving use by putting that in a problem solving way. I like how you mentioned Fortnite, because most nowadays now kids we are on like Fortnite, Crash Royale and all of those kind of games. And we forget about our simple games which teach us something while we're also having fun. I
For
like
sure.
that aspect of it. And I like how you said it had like an influence on your problem solving and on math and tests like that. Because most of the days, most of us we play like online games, which do get boring, but we don't think of the small things we do that which can affect our lives in many different ways.
Sure.
Continuing on, can you tell us about your volunteering and how that made an impact in your life?
So the hospital I volunteer at is Memorial Hermann. And alongside that, I shadow like my primary care physician. And what I've learned is that the career of healthcare is how do I phrase this? It's people say it's difficult, but what, like I said, that staff perspective, and you see the medical professionals, it's also very tiring physically. That because it's energy draining, because every single second of your work day you're talking to sick people. And as a sick person, I was myself, it was like it's energy draining, because you have to make sure that sick person doesn't feel bad all the time. You have to be uplift positive about every single thing. And that's what makes a great health professional, that the person who gives you hope and delivers results, of course, but also delivers hope, and that bright day that changes your outlook on the issue or the medical problem you have. So the volunteering and shadowing has really shown me that if you really do want a medicine, you have to go beyond helping people. Helping people is a very generic term, generic phrase. If you want to help people, it's more of also that you understand that it's a brutal career that but it's why I want to pursue and why I think people that pursue is because at some point of their life, I feel like they had that switch moment. Like I said, that some doctor was there for them. They understood that this health professional, if I didn't have it in my life, I probably would have been worse off. And that change is not necessarily linked to I just want to purely help people, but I also want to propel people instead of just helping them, because helping is short term. You go to the doctor, give you medicine, bye bye. But a doctor who propels you is a medical professional who propels you, a nurse or a person from the medical team who propels you is a person who of course helps you, but also in the long term guides you. At even my own surgeons, the doctor I shadowed, my PCP, the reason I just wanted to see what her life was, and what I really understood is that a PCP is like one of the most important medical professionals, because you're not looking at one person, two people, three. You're looking at the entire, basically, essentially bloodline, the people, the entire family, and you have that weight, you have that power to propel people for a better life, and that is what shadowing and volunteering has showed me, that it's beyond just helping people; it's also propelling people for a brighter and a better community and future.
I like how you said the more inspiring words, like how it has inspired you in a sense. I say when people shadow, you think of the small aspects of it. Oh, this will help me in the future. Oh, this will help me get into college, good on my resume, but also what you benefit from doing it, what you have learned while being it. And as you said before, like having the experience as the patient, but also as a staff member or a person who also helps, and how it's
Mhm.
challenging in a sense, making sure the patient is happy or the patient has the needs they want.
Sure. Mhm.
Coming to the end, I was going to close off. What's one thing you want the listeners to know or go off with before we end this session?
Have fun. If you're doing a journey, anything you're doing, have fun, learn, talk about it. Also talk about it. Don't keep it inside you. Talk about it. Share it. Share what you have learned, because that will, like I said, propel more people to do it. I hope that someone listening here gets propelled to do something else, like a domino effect. But yeah, have fun, learn, and keep working.
Yeah. Thank you for your time today, and thank
Sure.
you for everyone listening. I hope I can talk to you later. Thank you.
Sure. Have a good one, Ashwita. See ya.
You too.